When it comes to retirement planning for early retirement, there's one account that stands above the rest. That is the taxable brokerage account. I'm a huge fan of it. And if you're going to retire at 55 versus 65, it's absolutely something that you need to be paying attention to well before that retirement date. Today's video is going to talk you through why that account is so versatile in retirement, especially if you're someone who has funded your employer-sponsored 401k along the way. Now, I'm also a huge fan of that account, but here's the problem. There comes a time when you need to start looking at flexibility over deferral. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, many people watching this, if you've amassed enough in your employer 401k, you're going to encounter a problem later when it comes to deciding on should we or should we not do Roth conversions. The issue can be actually cut off at the start by figuring out when is that time period where it actually makes more sense to prioritize the flexibility of my early retirement planning over the deferral that I'm getting on taxes today. That is what this video is going to walk you through. If you're new to the channel, my name is Forrest Dutton. I am the owner of Brightworks Financial Planning. I am a certified financial planner, and I love to do these videos. They're to help you retire with confidence. They're not meant to be personal financial, tax, or investment advice. Please consult an appropriate professional. Without further ado, let's get on to today's video. Before I get into the numbers of today's case and talk you through what I would consider a pretty reasonable case study of what this could look like, I want to give you an analogy. So don't know if you're a movie fan, but Christopher Nolan some years back made a movie called Tenet. And in Tenet, basically you're watching someone go forward in time, but you also, halfway through the movie, there's actually a scene where there's someone mysterious and they appear as if they're going in reverse. And what you don't realize is until the end is at the very same time, there's basically a reversal of time going on as you're watching time go forward. So kind of like that movie, what I want you to be able to do is go forward in time and then go backwards and figure out where is this time in my retirement planning where it might make sense, instead of just getting deferral from 401k contributions, to actually limit those. And I'll explain what I mean by limit soon, but to actually prioritize this other type of account known as the taxable brokerage account to get the flexibility that I need to create the plan that I want from the decade of 55 to 65 and beyond. It could be 55 to 70, really whenever you decide that you want to turn on Social Security. So that's what this case is going to be about, and now we'll get into the actual details. Okay, so let's talk through the details of this case. We have a married couple, age 55. They want to retire at 55, and I'm going to show you where they stand. So we're moving into the future, and then we're going to reverse engineer this case. Now, they have decided that ideally they'd love to live on as much as $80,000, but they could get by with $50,000. That's the base of this case. And what we're going to see here is three different scenarios that I'm going to run you through. You can see three columns on the screen. Column number one is as if they did not diversify in their retirement. So they made a conscious decision, but between the time we're working all the way to 55, we're just going to max out the 401ks and defer in terms of taxes, and we will deal with them later. Now, what that does is it leaves them with less flexibility when it comes to this tax planning period. And I'm going to define that for them as age 55 to 67. So because of that deferral in column one, they decide that they want to do Roth conversions because they've amassed a large amount of tax deferred money. Now, the amount of money in this case doesn't necessarily matter, but what we've decided on is a Roth conversion amount of $80,000 over 12 years. So they've decided we need to convert a little bit less than $1 million, to be exact, $960,000, if you keep that 80 flat over that 12-year period. That's what you're seeing on the left. 50,000 is what they're living on. That's their base. They'd love to live on more, but that's their base. And in column one, I'm going to show you why not diversifying. Now, although they can still do Roth conversions here, it really hurts them month to month because they have less expense flexibility than they would otherwise, and I'll explain why when I get to column two. So down here you can see that their combined income is $130,000. Now, what makes that helpful is the reason we chose that 80,000 is so that we could stay just under the next tax bracket. So we're almost filling up the 12% tax bracket totally for the marginal tax bracket for the Roth conversion. So that brings our taxable income to this number. So we are going to pay some tax on that. Now notice our marginal rate here is 12%. So when it comes to Roth conversions, we're always thinking about when did it go in versus when it came out. So if you think about someone who was able to was able to defer a large amount during working years, chances are they deferred that above the 12% rate. That's still a win. The loss here, though, is that they're paying more tax than they would otherwise, and I'm going to show you that in the second column. This video is, again, meant to show you the power of the taxable brokerage account. It's a multiplier when it comes to tax and cash flow in retirement, and I'm going to show you why right now. So column 2, we have the exact same scenario in terms of the Roth conversion, so we're not changing that in column 2. It's $80,000, so they've still come to the same conclusions, but somewhere along the line they decided, okay, we want to really start to diversify. We've saved enough. Maybe in the first decade or 15 years of their working years they saved multi-million dollars. I don't know, but basically they got to a point when they said we need to start funding this brokerage account, and so by the time they get to retirement, they can actually live on a little bit more. So this $50,000, not to confuse you, that is long-term capital gains. Now in any account that's a brokerage or taxable style, in most cases, every dollar that you take out is not going to be taxed as a capital gain to you. You're only paying the difference in what you put in and what the growth was. So I'm assuming in this case, this could generate anywhere between, let's just assume, 20 or 30,000 more dollars. So in real dollars, they might actually be taking out 80,000, but what's showing in this column is 50,000. So right off the bat, you can see number one reason why this is helpful and powerful. 80,000 is what hit their bank account. 50,000 is what flows through as a long-term capital gain. So already that's a win, because in column A, in scenario 1, this couple would have to skimp on what they actually live on in retirement. And remember, if you're retiring early, you want to do it on your own terms. So that is definitely a detriment to them. So let's keep going. So we've got 50,000 of long-term gains, but in this case, they're living on about 80,000. So our total income is the same, but because of the way capital gains are taxed, 97,800 is underneath what's be considered the 0% capital gains bracket. So they are still paying 0 on that 50,000. So basically what we're going to do is that income that we're actually paying on the conversion, there's less of it that gets captured in flowing through the brackets, and I'm going to show you that in a second. Let me just show you that visually. I think this will be helpful. So what you're seeing here is, notice there's ordinary income. So yes, they're in the same marginal bracket, and I know, again, when it comes to assessment, it's easier just to go marginal to marginal, but there's a second level here, which is we're converting the same amount of money, but we're paying less tax because less of it is taking up that bracket. If I were to fill this up in scenario 1, I would draw the bar almost all the way up to 12, which means more of that money that's converted is captured in the 12% bracket, which is why the tax is less. So you've got two wins here. One is cash flow. You can live on more. And the second win is you have less tax, and substantially less tax. So in that case, your life is multiplied, right? So I would call this, the brokerage account is the retirement multiplier. So you multiply the amount you can live on each month, because you don't have to withhold more for tax at the end of the year. Because remember, of this couple that's in column 1 that's living off 50, well, where's the tax got to come from? Well, if you take it from the taxable account, that means you're living off less than 40, because remember, where's the tax going to come from? In this case, this 5,000, well, in that case, it's still a net win, because remember, they're pulling out 80. They just have to hold back a little over 5,000, and they're still living on more than they thought they needed. So that's a win for the brokerage conversion. Now, the third one would be, okay, maybe we've decided that we need to do some Roth conversions during this time, but we're not really set on doing as much. So remember, 80,000 over 12 years is 960,000 converted. This could be a lot less in column 3. So, hey, we don't want to do 80, we want to do 30. But we still have saved in our taxable brokerage account, which is awesome. So they can still take out the 50,000 and convert the 30. Now what that does is, obviously, if you're converting less, that means less income is imputed to you. So instead of 130, their total income's at 80,000. Now the beauty of that is that's going to flow through in early retirement in terms of healthcare decision making, because I didn't mention in column 1 and column 2 is, again, if you're under Medicare age, you need to decide how we're going to pay for healthcare. So these two income levels for a married couple would not qualify for any subsidy. This third column likely would. So in that case, you'd not only be saving money because of the increased ability to draw more with less tax, you're doing less of a Roth conversion, and you also benefit from saving on subsidies. So in this case, what did you actually pay on the conversion? Well, the answer is 0. And why is that? Is because basically you filled up your standard deduction, which would be around at 32,000 with the conversion itself. So this is some way that you could actually benefit from using the brokerage but not going all in on conversions, and also having to balance the need for that subsidy. Now again, some people might choose column 3, not everyone would, and again, it's subject to your situation. Now let's do the reverse engineering part. Okay, let's say that you've watched this and I've convinced you and you said, wow, we've been putting way too much emphasis on deferral. We can't just put all our eggs in deferral basket because I feel like we're going to lose some flexibility and I don't like column 1. Well, if you don't, what would you need to do to turn column 1 into column 2? That's what I want to show you next. Okay, so if you wanted to do 80,000 of conversions and you wanted to be able to pull out 80,000, remember that 50 here is just the long-term capital gain. It's not the dollars that hit your account, because in this case they want to be able to actually live on some of that and withhold a little for tax. If that's the case, what would be a reasonable amount in the brokerage account that we need to amass by age 55 in order to draw this over 12 years and make sure it actually lasts? So again, just some rough math here. Let's just say you're watching this and you're 45 and you have 10 years until 55. You have 50,000 right now in your account. Let's just assume you earn an 8% return because you're being aggressive because you're still not there. Again, don't know what your return is going to be. This is obviously not specific investment advice. No one can guarantee you a return. So if it's 8%, then the math would tell you if you go from 50, you need to get somewhere around 700,000. So 710,000 to make this viably work. Now, the math would tell you that means you need to totally spend more. The math would say maybe you're going to have to put in a little bit over $41,000 a year to get to that, just to get to that number, assuming you earn that over 10 years. Now, if you start earlier, then that's going to be less and less. So here's the conundrum. That's over the max of a 401k. Let's say that you're in the 32% bracket now. You know you're going to be in a lower bracket later, so I would tell you, I'm not telling you to turn off your 401k. I don't think that's a good decision, but I do think there could be a happy medium here where you get that deferral and you do save on some taxes now, but you decide, what is my plan? Am I going to be, where am I at right now? If you're at 45 and you already have what I would call a very, very large tax deferred account, you might want to slow it some. Again, I would never encourage anyone to go below the match. So if you're getting free money from your employer, it's a slam dunk in my opinion. Again, not specific advice, just generally. If someone offers a match, it's hard to turn that away. But above that, you may want to decide, okay, how much of this do I actually want to do? Maybe your window is shorter. Maybe it's 55 to 60. In that case, the math changes. So the longer you want to do conversions for, the larger amount in the brokerage you're going to need to draw for those conversions for income. So that's just me talking through the reverse engineering. Now this one, column 3, what if we just want to know we want to do 30,000? We're not in the all-in camp. This becomes a little bit more manageable in terms of what you may want to save and when. So same scenario, you're 45, you have 10 years till you get to 55. Assuming you have 50,000 right now in a taxable brokerage. If you earn an 8% return, then you're going to need to put in a little bit around 11,000, give or take. Again, this is just a rough estimate to get to your number of somewhere around 265,000. Now, obviously more would be better, but how do you reverse engineer that? Well, that one is a little bit more suitable because you could literally just drop down from the 401k and say, okay, well that 11,000 that I dropped out is going to go towards my taxable brokerage, and you're diversifying while still getting some deferral. So this is again, you have to make trade-offs when it comes to retirement planning. Now enter one more account that could help you here. You're going, well, man, I hate giving up that deferral because I am in the 32% bracket. Well, if you are, or even if you're in anything over 12, right? It could be in the 20s. Enter the health savings account, which I would also highly encourage you to fund, because as of 2026, you can put as a family $8,750 in that account. So you almost got back all of your deferral that you diversified elsewhere. So again, this assumes you have the cash flow to do both. Not everyone can. But I just wanted to run this because I want you to think through it and realize that there are different paths. You might choose them for different reasons, and they all will have pros and cons to them. But I do think regardless of where you're at, the taxable brokerage account, if you want to retire early, just puts you in a position to do so, because no matter how much you defer in column A, it doesn't matter if you retire with a $5 million IRA, you are going to have a lot more trouble converting because all of that income just stacks on income, ordinary income versus capital gains split and income split. That's an important distinction. So I would encourage you to diversify if you know you want to retire early. Love to hear what you think. Please comment below. What would you be thinking about in these cases or these scenarios? How have you approached this in your own retirement planning? I'd love to hear from you. What kind of videos do you want to see? And please, again, like this video, subscribe, and I will see you on the next video.